Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm Emily Parker, filling in all this week for Christine Lee, and joining me is my co-host, managing editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitinn. Good morning, Lawrence.
Hey, good morning, Emily. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you? Let's just quickly first take a look at Bitcoin. So the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index XPX is currently at $47,339. That's up less than 1% over the past 24 hours. The CoinDesk Ether Price Index ETX is currently at $3,158. That's up a little under 2% over the past 24 hours. And finally, the CoinDesk DeFi Index, DFX, is at $650. That's up over 2% over the past 24 hours. So, Lawrence, let's check in on the markets today. It's been kind of a quieter week after all the commotion around $50,000 for Bitcoin, or you could say boring. What's going on?
This is a boring day. I mean, yeah, we're in about $1,000 range, actually a little less than $1,000, which is about 2% range from where we were yesterday. Volume is just about average, ho-hum over the past 24 hours, nothing too exciting. Obviously, everyone's waiting in about an hour. Fed Chair Jerome Powell will be speaking, and the virtual Jackson Hole Summit. And, a couple of questions is basically to taper or not to taper? That's the question. And I think that's what everyone's watching, whether it's the equity markets or the crypto markets. What exactly is going to happen with monetary policy? Because obviously the more that's being printed, the higher Bitcoin goes. So the theory goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's in theory. So we'll see. Yeah, we don't really know if Powell's remarks will have any immediate effect, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
So one of the more exciting aspects of the crypto market right now are NFTs. These are markets for digital collectibles known as non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, have actually climbed to record highs this summer after sort of leveling out for a bit. And one of these major NFT marketplaces, OpenSea, is now a unicorn valued at $1.5 billion, following a funding round led by A16Z. Joining us to discuss the NFT boom is Nate Chastain, OpenSea Head of Product. Welcome, Nate.
Hey, Emily. Hi, Lawrence. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Nate.
Hey, Nate. It's great to see you here. Glad you finally were able to come on. So let's just start with these records, and OpenSea is just exploding right now. It's funny because recently, a few months ago, NFTs, the market looked kind of quiet. It looked like it was dying down, and then it sort of returned with a vengeance. What is going on exactly?
Sure. Well, just to put these numbers in perspective, our August 2021 volume has now exceeded our volume in all previous months of OpenSea's history. So we're registering about 2.3 billion in volume now in the month of August and haven't yet closed up the month. I don't know if I can attribute this to any one catalyst or distill this down to a few key happenings in the space, but we have noticed that, if users can overcome that first hurdle of purchasing their first NFT, they're very likely to make a repeat purchase on the platform. So what we're trying to do now, what we're targeting with a lot of different product initiatives, is just figuring out how to clear that onboarding hurdle and deal with some of the UX friction that blockchain products typically present.
So Nate, about that spike in activity that we've seen over the past few months, a couple of months at least, is that tied to China placing restrictions on crypto? Are we seeing money trying to get out of China, or otherwise even money laundering elsewhere, if not China, going into the NFT markets as a way to circumvent authorities? Is that what's causing this spike?
I'm not sure if I would attribute it to that. One data point that leads me to believe that some of this interest is more organic is our count of active wallets on the platform has been steadily increasing. I think at last check, let me just get you a recent number. So this month we have 177,000 wallets on the platform, as opposed to in July 62,000 wallets. So that increase in the size of our user base leads me to believe that there is some organic traction here, and there is interest from retail buyers or a more typical NFT purchaser.
Where is that traffic coming from? Where are those wallets coming from? Do you have any idea of the geographic location, the geographic breakdown of where those wallets are coming from?
This is certainly like one area in which Web3 products are at a little bit of an informational disadvantage. We don't track information about we have country of origin information, but there isn't really an outlier in terms of where our users are coming from. We still are primarily US-based user base.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask, how does it break down besides the US? I mean, percentage-wise, do you have any ideas on that?
Sure, I can pull up those numbers. I mean, largely it's here. Let me just pull this up. I don't know if there's any significant outlier here other than the U.S. market. I have a sense that we have pretty wide geographic distribution because we are a product that caters to a global audience. But I haven't noticed any uptick in traffic from any one particular country.
So, Nate, you did something very brave recently. You actually asked people on Twitter for feedback about problems with OpenSea. You tweeted something saying basically that, OpenSea is doing really well right now, but if it were to fail in a few years, what would be the main reason for that failure? I thought that was a bold move, soliciting that kind of feedback on crypto Twitter. But you got a ton of responses. What do you think were some of the main pain points that came to light after that exercise?
Yeah, I think we are certainly, I think that we've only partly earned our success, and that the product is still hugely flawed in a number of ways. And I take full responsibility for that as the head of product. We've just grown so quickly that we've run into scaling issues. We've run into issues where we hadn't identified problems with the UX because we were catering to a crypto native audience. And now that we're targeting a more mainstream audience, there are issues that are getting exposed that way. I think that mainly what users want to see from OpenSea is, so there are a couple of big themes that emerge. One is discoverability of assets. Right now, if you're arriving on OpenSea, the only way to make that, to make our platform useful to you is to sort of have a project in mind that you're interested in purchasing. But it's very difficult to discover a new project through OpenSea right now. We're fairly limited as a search tool and as a discovery tool. I also think that fraud is going to be a really important, or our trust and security division is going to be a major pillar of our eventual success or failure. How we deal with that issue will sort of define us as a platform, because if you're arriving on OpenSea and you purchase a fraudulent asset that you later discover was not what you thought it was, that can end up being the end of your run as an OpenSea user. Your user journey stops there after you make that first $1,000 purchase that gets delisted. So I think that's something that we're definitely prioritizing as a top of mind issue, how we can introduce some anti-fraud measures that further curb bad actors in the space. And I think it's important to sort of keep our attention trained on the latest developments that bad actors are bringing to the platform. If they're trying to fool users with a specific way of like representing a verification check mark, we find out how to knock those projects out. Or if they are targeting users in a phishing scam, we'll work with teams to sort of eliminate that risk vector. So I think this is going to be an ongoing challenge for the company and one that we recognize we have a responsibility to invest deeply in.
So Nate, just quickly following up on this discoverability question, I think you and I talked about this a long time ago, but this idea of, this whole philosophy behind NFTs is that it's like democratizing the art world and like anybody can kind of come in. But what actually happens in reality is that we have a lot of celebrities in this space. And in many cases, the platforms actually help the celebrities, right? The platforms help the celebrities get better placement. They help them, navigate the process. And so as a result, celebrities end up sort of rising to the top faster than these newer artists. I mean, is that something that you're seeing a little bit on OpenSea as well?
Well, most of our volume is actually coming from these community-led projects. We'll have partners occasionally like Coca-Cola that will launch a project with their platform, but those represent, while those sales are very successful, they only represent a small sliver of our volume. We are typically, the Bored Ape Yacht Clubs of the world are typically driving most of our volume on the site.
So, Nate, outside of Ethereum, what are the other popular blockchains that you're finding with NFTs here?
Sure. Well, I think the Tezos community has done something really interesting with this platform called Hiket Nuke. That's one that I've been following, and we're still hoping to integrate Tezos in the near future. Similarly, I think Dapper Labs is positioning Flow to be a really interesting blockchain in the space. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting content and IP that gets deployed on Flow. I've seen some interest burgeoning in Solana. Binance Smart Chain, Immutable X has a number of interesting gaming projects. I think we are in a position where we have limited bandwidth, so we can only tackle so many blockchain integrations at one time, but that's sort of a short list of ones that we've been looking at and considering.
Thank you so much, Nate. We have to wrap it up there. But one quick final question. Any chance that OpenSea will issue a token of its own?
Well, I think we have to be pretty considerate about, so the regulatory guidance there isn't quite clear, and we have to be really mindful of how to structure tokenomics in a way that would make sense as a value layer for the platform. So we have no plans at this time to issue a token. We may reopen that discussion in the future, but at the moment, we're just trying to be really cautious about stepping into that territory.
Thank you so much. That was Nate Chastain of OpenSea. Coming up, checking in on Asia and Bitcoin, has the rally stalled? Time now for the daily forecast, a look at what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Welcome to the Daily Forecast, August 27th, 2021. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forecast News. Coming up, South Korea's new FSC chair has some thoughts on crypto. Axie Infinity says it's willing to work with governments on tax, and a forecast exclusive, ANTINALYSIS, declares itself out and proud. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. In South Korea, the fate of crypto for the country could fall in the hands of the newly nominated Financial Services Commission chairman. And he had plenty to say at his confirmation hearing this morning. As crypto adoption grew, so did the concern of regulators, especially under the former FSC Eun Sung-soo's leadership. But what will new leadership bring? Will this new FSC chief help or hinder the crypto industry in South Korea? Forecast News' Danny Park reports.
Handpicked by the president, Ko Seung-bum is a financial regulatory veteran, previously working for both the FSC and the Bank of Korea. The upcoming September 24th deadline for crypto exchanges to meet the FSC's requirements has left the exchanges in a panic. But the FSC has said no to repeated requests for an extension to the grace period. At the hearing, lawmaker Yoon Chang-hyun asked Ko his opinion on the matter.
상황에서 그동안 해오던 그 기조를 바꾸기가 기본적으로는 좀 어렵다고 저는 생각을 합니다. 그거 자체가 또 잘못된 시그널을 줄 수도 있고 해서 저희는 그러면 또 신고 기한을 연장을 해서 그 많은 업체들이 계속 가도록 만드는 것이 이용자 피해를 진정으로 보호하는 길인지 그 부분에 대해서는 저는 좀 더 고민을 해야 된다고 생각하고요.
It seems the new head may not be any more compassionate to crypto exchanges than the last. So far, only one exchange has met the FSC's strict criteria. Any, and it looks like that could be many, that fail to meet the requirements face closure in less than a month. For Forecast News, I'm Danny Park.
Taxing crypto gains in gaming. It's not a problem. Sky MAVIS, the Vietnam-based developers of hugely popular play-to-earn game Axie Infinity, say they are happy to work with governments. The move follows tax authorities in the Philippines reportedly announcing that earnings from such play-to-earn games are taxable. So what might this mean for players, many of whom have been earning a decent income from the game? Forecast News' Carolyn White has more.
In a statement, Sky MAVIS say they are proud to contribute to the digital economy by allowing players to earn an income. But they encourage all players to abide by local laws. The developer goes on to say that with this shift in the nature of work, it's important to speak with governments, and they hope such discussions can empower gamers. According to data from PlayCounter, more than 40% of all Axie players live in the Philippines, with some making $300 to $400 a month. This in a country where the minimum monthly wage is a mere $170 and whose economy has been hit hard by the pandemic. One gamer told Forecast News they hoped for more clarity on how such a tax would work. Such discussions could be set to help answer that query. For Forecast News, I'm Carolyn Wright.
And finally today, in an exclusive interview, Forecast News got the lowdown on why ANTINALYSIS is now out and proud. The blockchain analysis tool that allows users to check how clean their bitcoins are and how risky it is to hold tokens with links to illicit activities relaunched earlier this week. It had been shut down after suggestions that it would be used by criminals with malicious intent. Their spokesperson, using the name Pharaoh, told us the tool was launched to help users understand where their funds actually come from and what data blockchain analysis firms collect from them. While they cannot help users gain access to that data, quote, they can offer a glimpse into what it is and how it could be used to lock them out of their accounts. Pharaoh also said that privacy is, quote, a basic human right and that wanting to protect it is not equivalent to doing something illegal. Pharaoh also says ANTINALYSIS was initially running only on the dark web to test out whether it had any issues with anti-money laundering laws. But following the relaunch, it's now available for everyone on a proxy site on the ClearNet, which is the publicly accessible part of the internet for all to see. Well, up to a point. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Checking in on Bitcoin again, the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index XBX is currently at $47,123. That's down less than 1% over the past 24 hours. And the CoinDesk Ether Price Index ETX is currently at $3,138, up about a little over 1% over the past 24 hours. And the CoinDesk DeFi Index, DFX, is currently at around $649. That's up over 2% over the past 24 hours. So our next guest, Andrei Poliakov, CEO of Coinberry, a Canadian exchange, joins us now to discuss the crypto markets. Welcome, Andrei.
Good morning, Emily.
Good morning. So the markets over the past few days have been relatively quiet, after everybody got really excited about Bitcoin crossing $50,000. Do you think Bitcoin's going to return to 50K anytime soon?
I think the general trend that we're seeing is quite bullish in nature. We believe in at Coinberry that for the regulatory developments in Canada specifically and abroad, we will see higher interest from institutional and retail investors in the space and more demand for Bitcoin driving the price up.
So, Andrei, specific to your platform, to Coinberry, what are you seeing in terms of flows? Who's buying and who's selling? Is it more retail? Is it more institutional? What are they doing? What kind of positioning are they?
So we are a primarily retail-focused platform. All of our user base is based in Canada and is retail in nature. So we see a lot of accumulation going on a consistent basis. It fluctuates with the price of Bitcoin specifically, but we do primarily see a lot more buy pressure on a day-to-day basis than sell pressure.
So could you give us a little bit of insight about Canada versus the US market? Are there any particular coins or trends that you see in Canada that diverge from what we're seeing in the US?
I think it's important to know that the Canadian market is of course much smaller than the US market. So even though we tend to sometimes follow in the shadows of the Asian markets or the US markets, we do see some differences, and something that I think is worth mentioning is the number of ETFs that we have in Canada that are quite popular in nature. I think it's important to also kind of note that the reason that we had a lot of interest in ETFs in Canada is because of the lack of regulated platforms for institutional investors to actually acquire crypto assets on cryptocurrencies. So now with Coinberry becoming the first sort of pure play crypto platform in Canada to offer a regulated platform for investors to actually acquire their assets, it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the ETF market in Canada.
So, Andrei, of course, you just got approval to be the first regulated exchange. It is fully regulated by Ontario. And Canada tends to be more regulated by province than by the federal authorities, like in the United States, where we have the SEC. Why are we seeing so much action, if you will, out of Ontario specifically? Is it because that's Toronto and the exchanges are the big major exchanges are in Toronto, or are there any other provinces that are enacting or trying to attract any crypto-friendly legislation or approvals or regulation similar to what we have in the United States with states like Wyoming?
So we received registration from the Ontario Securities Commission, but the registration we received covers our business across all of Canada, across all of the provinces and all of the territories. So it was a long and onerous process that we went through that lasted over 3 years. But ultimately, all of the provinces and territories signed up to the decision. So it's not an Ontario-only decision. This registration is cross country for us, and I think we will see further platforms being registered that are based in other provinces. I think Coinberry was sort of the first and leading in the space in the space of regulatory adhesion and focusing on provide a safe, secure, and convenient platform that is regulated. But I am sure we will have competitors follow suit.
Do you think Ontario specifically, though, has a more, let's say, ease of process to get regulated than compared to other provinces, or do they just have the infrastructure to do it?
I don't think it's so much ease of process as the fact that Toronto is the financial hub of Canada, and so we have a lot of great minds and teams working out of Toronto. And Coinberry is based in Toronto, but we have other projects as well. Ethereum is one that was launched and developed in Ontario as well. So I think it just goes to show that there's a lot of talent in Ontario, but not necessarily that it only exists in Ontario. And we have a lot of great projects and minds across the country.
Thank you so much, Andrei.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Andrei Poliakov of Coinberry. Coming up, our own Nick Day will be back with the latest regulatory news.
When we say we want to reimagine money, it turns out we're going to the heart of the matter. Imagination has always been a key part of what money is. Imagination in the form of cultural creativity is also something that the cryptocurrency community has in spades. And to the outsider, that can be a reason to dismiss it as frivolous, as something built on nothing. To dismiss it for these reasons, though, is to ignore that all money is imagined.
Time to check in with Nick Day, managing editor of Global Policy and Regulation and the editor of CoinDesk's State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick.
Hey, good morning.
So, Nick, what are you looking at? What are you looking at this week? We've talked about the Fed. We've talked about the infrastructure bill. What's next on your radar?
Yeah, Fed Chair Powell is supposed to speak very shortly, I think, actually, in just half an hour or so, about his expectations for the economy and how the central bank might look at that. So I think that's going to be worth looking out for. Next week, we're going to continue monitoring the infrastructure bill to see if any progress is made at all in terms of getting an amendment made or, addressing the crypto tax provision through a new bill. But, so far, status quo seems to be, what we're going to stick with. I don't think we're going to see any major changes, certainly not when, anytime soon, if that happens.
So, Nick, what's Senator Pat Toomey up to? He's doing something, right?
Yeah, yesterday he put out a call for a request for comment on, legislative ideas on addressing crypto. We've seen this conversation happen quite a bit in the past. There are bills before Congress right now that, that seek to solicit public input on how crypto should be regulated or, how legislation should create rules around crypto within the U.S. So, this is a new attempt at getting some answers to some of these questions.
So, Nick, as you predict, the infrastructure bill does not get amended, what's next? What's the next step for the crypto lobby?
So what we're going to see is, first off, Treasury Department is going to have to publish, the actual guidance. So, whatever happens is going to be subject to the Treasury Department's interpretation. And so we're going to be waiting to see what they, come up with, how they're going to define a broker, how they're going to look at the taxation question or the tax information reporting question, rather. And, I think that's, I don't think you're going to see anyone, try to sue the government, I guess, to try and change the law before then. I've been told that, it's a distinct possibility, but probably very unlikely.
Okay, thank you, Nick. That was Nick Day, managing editor of Global Policy and Regulation. Don't forget to sign up for his newsletter, The State of Crypto, at CoinDesk.com. That's it for First Mover today. Thank you, Lawrence Lewitinn, managing editor of Global Capital Markets. I'm Emily Parker. Coming up at noon is The Hash, and then at 3 is All About Bitcoin. You're watching CoinDesk TV.